The overhead bin slammed shut. Rachel Cole didn't flinch. She'd survived ejections at Mach 2. Turbulence at 30,000 feet barely registered. Around her, first-class passengers settled into their premium leather with the practiced ease of people who'd never questioned whether they belonged. Rachel pulled her faded navy hoodie tighter and sank into 12F, watching their eyes slide past her like she was part of the upholstery. She'd seen that look before, in briefing rooms, on tarmacs, right before she proved them catastrophically wrong. The businessman in 11E smirked at his colleague. Standards really have dropped, haven't they? Rachel's fingers drummed once against her armrest, the same rhythm she used before weapons hot. Outside, two F-22 Raptors screamed past the wing. Nobody noticed. Nobody ever did, until they had to. Before we dive in, if you're hooked, stay with me until the very end. This story has layers you won't see coming. Drop a like, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far Rachel's story travels. Trust me, you'll want to see how this plays out. The gate agent's smile had died the moment Rachel approached with her boarding pass. Not disappeared, died. The kind of death that happens when expectation meets reality and loses badly. Seat 12F, the woman had said, her voice carrying just enough pause to make it a question. Her eyes had traveled from Rachel's scuffed Nikes to her worn jeans to the hoodie that had seen better decades. First class. That's what it says. Rachel's voice was flat, neutral. The tone she used when radio chatter got heated and someone needed to remember who was actually in command. The agent's finger had hovered over her keyboard like she was considering options. Verifying. Double-checking. Looking for the mistake that would make the universe make sense again. There wasn't one. Rachel had boarded without another word, her small backpack slung over one shoulder, and now here she was, surrounded by people who measured worth in thread count and quarterly earnings. The cabin smelled like expensive cologne and barely concealed judgment. "Excuse me." The voice came from above. Rachel glanced up. The flight attendant, name tag reading Olivia Kane, stood with a smile so professional it could have been laminated. "Can I get you anything before we take off?" "I'm good." Olivia's eyes did their own scan. Hoodie, backpack, the absence of the usual first-class accessories, designer bag, laptop case, the invisible armor of belonging. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Rachel pulled out her phone, opened her boarding pass, held it up without a word. 12F, first class, paid in full. "Oh." Olivia's smile tightened. "Well, let me know if you need anything." The subtext was deafening. "But please don't." Rachel settled back and watched the tarmac through the window. A fuel truck crawled past. Ground crew signaled to each other in the language of marshalling wands and hand gestures. Communication stripped down to pure function. She understood that language better than most. Unbelievable. The word drifted from 2 rows up. Male voice, expensive suit by the sound of it. You could hear wealth in the rustle of fabric. "They're putting anyone up here now." His companion laughed. "What's next? Standby passengers?" Rachel's jaw tightened fractionally. Not anger, muscle memory. The same clench that happened when training scenarios went sideways and adrenaline had to be converted into precision. She'd been underestimated before, by instructors who thought women didn't belong in fighter cockpits, by commanding officers who'd questioned her scores, by enemy combatants who'd made the fatal mistake of assuming the call sign Midnight Viper belonged to someone bigger, louder, more obvious. They'd all learned. These people would too, eventually. The plane began to fill. More suits, more designer luggage, more glances that bounced off Rachel like radar off stealth coding. She pulled out a worn paperback, Tom Clancy, ironically, and pretended to read while her peripheral vision tracked every movement in the cabin. Old habits, good habits. "I'm just saying," the businessman in 11E continued, louder now. "There's premium, and then there's premium. Some people just don't understand the difference." His friend, 11D by the sound of it, made an agreeable noise. "It's about standards." Rachel turned a page she hadn't read. The Boeing's engines began their spool up, that distinctive whine building from whisper to roar. The sound triggered something in her chest. Not fear, but recognition. Different engines, same physics, same fundamental relationship between thrust and gravity, power and surrender. She'd trusted her life to engines like these. Different model, same faith. The captain's voice crackled through the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Morris. We've been cleared for an immediate departure. Flight time to our destination will be approximately 2 hours. We'll be cruising at 35,000 feet with some expected turbulence over. The rest faded into background noise. Rachel had heard versions of this speech 1,000 times. Weather, altitude, time. Variables that mattered when you were planning an intercept, but meant nothing when you were just a passenger. Except she was never just a passenger. The plane pushed back, taxied. The world outside the window began to move with increasing purpose. "Ma'am?" Olivia appeared again, her smile strained. "Your bag needs to be fully under the seat." Rachel glanced at her backpack. It was under the seat. Had been since she'd sat down. "It's fine," she said quietly. "Airline regulations require it's under the seat." Rachel's eyes didn't leave the window. Her voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. Olivia hesitated. Something in Rachel's stillness communicated more than words could. The flight attendant nodded once and moved away, her professional mask slipping just enough to show confusion underneath. The businessman in 11E leaned into the aisle. Rachel could see him in her peripheral vision, mid-40s, gray at the temples, the kind of tan that came from country club weekends. "Some people," he said, not quite to her but definitely about her, "need to learn there's a difference between buying a seat and earning one." Rachel's fingers stopped drumming. The plane turned onto the runway. Engines built to full power. That moment of suspension, wheels still touching earth but thrust promising sky. The transition point. The commitment. She knew this moment intimately, had lived it from the other side of the cockpit door, the calculations, the decision tree, the point of no return. The 737 accelerated. Pushed back into her seat, Rachel felt the familiar compression of G-forces that never really left your body once you'd experienced them at combat intensity. This was gentle, barely 1G. But her muscles remembered more. Rotation, liftoff. The gentle bank as Captain Morris turned toward their heading. Below, the city fell away, became abstract. Patterns and geometry instead of streets and lives. Rachel had seen cities from this angle before, usually through a HUD, usually with different intentions. Champagne? Olivia was making her rounds, the service cart gleaming with bottles and crystal. The businessman in 11E took one without looking up from his phone. His friend did the same. When Olivia reached Rachel's row, her hand hesitated over the bottles. "Would you like? Water's fine. We have Perrier, San Pellegrino, tap water." Olivia's expression flickered, not quite contempt. Not quite pity. Somewhere in between where judgment lives when it thinks it's being kind. She returned with a plastic cup of water. The businessman had crystal. Rachel didn't react. Reactions were ammunition. You didn't give ammunition to people who hadn't earned it. She sipped her water and watched clouds build over the wing, cumulus, building vertically. The kind that could hide threats or provide cover, depending on which side you were on. "So I told him," the businessman was saying, voice carrying easily in the steady drone of cruising altitude. "Either you're committed to excellence or you're not. There's no middle ground. Some people just don't have it in them." "Truth," his friend agreed. "You can always tell. It's in how they carry themselves, how they present." Rachel's hoodie was 15 years old. Navy issue. The N in Navy had mostly worn away. The zipper stuck at the halfway point and had since 2015. She'd been wearing it the day she'd flown her first solo in an F/A-18. The day she'd made her first carrier landing. The day she'd earned her call sign. It was the most expensive thing she owned, measured in the currency that actually mattered. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Around the cabin, passengers shifted, stretched, reached for laptops and tablets, and the business of looking busy. Rachel stayed still. "Excuse me." The voice was new, female, from the row ahead. Rachel glanced up. A woman in her 30s, platinum blonde, diamond earrings that caught the cabin light like targeting lasers. "Yes?" I couldn't help but notice. The woman's smile was practiced, veneer perfect. "Are you traveling for work or pleasure?" The question was innocent. The delivery wasn't. This was reconnaissance, intel gathering. "Work," Rachel said. "Oh? What field?" "Aviation." The woman's smile widened. "Oh, how nice. Are you a flight attendant?" Rachel took a slow breath, counted to 3, let it out. "No." "Pilot?" There was amusement in the question, the kind that expects a punchline. "Something like that." The woman waited for elaboration. Rachel didn't provide it. After a moment that stretched just long enough to become uncomfortable, the woman's smile locked in place and she turned back around. Rachel returned to her book. Didn't read. Watched the words and thought about the desert, about night operations, about the specific quality of darkness at 40,000 feet when you're hunting something that's hunting you back. She's probably one of those private pilot types, the businessman said, not bothering to lower his voice. Thinks a Cessna license makes her maverick. Laughter, multiple sources. Rachel's thumb marked her place in the book. She didn't close it, didn't look up. Just held her position and waited. Waited like she'd waited in hostile airspace. Waited like she'd waited for target lock. Waited for the moment when patience converted to action and silence became violence. Not yet. The flight attendant call button chimed somewhere behind her. Olivia's voice drifted forward, professional and smooth. Normal service, normal flight. Nothing normal about it. Rachel could feel the shift happening, subtle, like air pressure changing before a storm. The cabin wasn't aware yet. Too busy with their certainties, their assumptions, their comfortable stories about who belonged and who didn't. She checked her watch. An old Casio, digital, indestructible. The kind you wore when expensive watches became shrapnel. 90 minutes to destination. Outside, the clouds had thickened. The wing cut through them like a blade, leaving turbulent wakes that dissipated into nothing. Physics. Action and reaction. Every force creating its equal and opposite. The businessman stood, stretched, headed toward the lavatory. On his way back, he paused at Rachel's row. "Excuse me," he said, not really asking. Rachel was aisle seat. She'd have to move. She stood smoothly, stepped into the aisle, gave him room. He squeezed past, closer than necessary. "Thanks, sweetheart." Rachel's fist clenched once, released. He didn't notice. Already settling back into 11E. Already forgetting she existed. Muscle memory wanted response. Training demanded patience. Training won. She sat back down. The book remained open. Her eyes tracked words. Her mind tracked time. 75 minutes. The pilot's voice returned, crackling with slight static. "Folks, we're going to be making a slight deviation to our flight path. We've been requested to make a brief stop at Edwards Air Force Base for priority passenger connection. Should only add about 20 minutes to our total flight time. We apologize for any inconvenience." The cabin erupted in mutters. Complaints. Schedules disrupted. Meetings delayed. The minor apocalypse of inconvenience. Rachel didn't react. "Edwards." Her fingers stopped their drumming entirely. "Are you kidding me?" The businessman's voice rose above the others. "I have a meeting at 3. This is completely unacceptable." His friend joined in. "Can they even do that? Isn't there a regulation against—" Olivia appeared, hands raised in placation. "I understand your frustration. The captain has been in contact with the base. This is a federal priority request. We don't have a choice." "Unbelievable," the platinum blonde said. "What kind of priority?" Olivia's professional smile was wearing thin. "I wasn't informed of the details." "Probably some general's golf clubs," the businessman muttered. "Military privilege, typical." Rachel's jaw tightened again. Different muscles this time. The ones that dealt with disrespect. She'd earned her rank, her clearance, her right to every resource she'd ever called on. She'd paid in ways these people couldn't begin to calculate. Blood, sweat, friends who didn't make it home. Skills honed until they were sharper than the aircraft she flew. But she didn't say any of that. Words were ammunition. The plane began its descent. The distinctive sensation of falling while staying level. Air brakes engaging, landing gear deploying with a hydraulic thunk that vibrated through the fuselage. Rachel watched the landscape change outside her window. Desert, tan and brown, stretching to horizons that shimmered with heat, even from altitude. Dry lake beds that had served as runways since before jets existed. Home territory. The businessman leaned toward his friend. $20 says this is all for some colonel's kid flying home from college. "Sucker bet," the friend replied. "Probably just cargo." The plane touched down, smooth, professional. Captain Morris knew his craft. The engines reversed thrust. Deceleration pressed Rachel forward against her belt. Through the window, the base materialized. Hangars like massive shadows against the desert sun. Aircraft parked in precise rows, fighters, trainers, test beds, things the civilian world didn't have names for yet. And there, on the tarmac, barely visible in the heat shimmer. Rachel's breath caught. 4F-22 Raptors. Full combat configuration, parked in perfect formation. They weren't there for cargo. The plane taxied toward a remote section of the field, away from the main terminal, away from the normal flow of traffic, toward a cluster of vehicles. Black SUVs, a Humvee. Personnel in uniform gathering like pieces on a chessboard, waiting for the next move. The businessman was getting agitated. This is ridiculous. Who do they think they are? Olivia appeared at the front of the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be stationary for a few minutes. Please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened. For what? Someone called out. Olivia didn't answer. Couldn't, probably. She moved toward the cabin door as the plane rolled to a complete stop. The engine spooled down to idle, that distinctive whine dropping to a rumble. Outside, the heat made the air visible, rippling, distorting. Rachel's heart rate hadn't changed. 60 beats per minute, the same rate she maintained in the box, in the fight, when milliseconds mattered and panic meant death. The cabin door opened, bootsteps on the air stairs, heavy, purposeful, military. The businessman turned to watch. Everyone did. Even the platinum blonde craned her neck. A figure appeared in the doorway. Male, 30s. Air Force dress blues with ribbons that told a story of deployments and distinctions. Major's insignia on his shoulders. His eyes swept the cabin once, stopped on Rachel. Miss Cole? The cabin went silent. Rachel met his gaze. Major. He stepped fully into the aircraft. Behind him, 2 more uniforms. Security, protocol. I'm Major Daniel Hayes, Edwards Air Operations. His voice carried the particular authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. Ma'am, I need to confirm your identity. Are you call sign Shadowhawk? Wrong call sign. Rachel's expression didn't change. You have the wrong aircraft, Major. Hayes blinked, consulted a tablet his aide handed him, frowned. My apologies. He looked up again. Call sign Midnight Viper? The businessman in 11E started laughing. Couldn't help himself. Midnight Viper? Seriously? Is this some kind of... Hayes' head turned. His expression didn't change. Didn't have to. The laughter died. Rachel stood, slowly, deliberately. Every eye in the cabin tracked her movement. Confirmed, she said. Hayes straightened. Ma'am, you're requested on the tarmac immediately. Priority 1. Reason? You're cleared. That's all I can say here. His eyes flicked meaningfully around the cabin. Civilians. Uncleared. Security risk. Rachel understood. She'd been living in that world since before Hayes made lieutenant. She reached for her backpack. Wait. The platinum blonde stood. Who are you? What is this? Rachel slung her pack over one shoulder, stepped into the aisle. This is insane, the businessman said. She's in a hoodie. This has to be some kind of mistake. Rachel walked past him, didn't look, didn't need to. Hayes fell into step beside her. His security detail bracketed them. Protocol, SOP. As they reached the cabin door, Olivia stood pressed against the galley wall, eyes wide, professional mask completely gone. Rachel paused. Just for a second, met the flight attendant's eyes. The water was fine, she said quietly. Thanks. Then she descended the stairs into the white-hot Nevada sun. The heat hit like a physical force, 110 degrees easy. The kind of heat that made thought sluggish if you weren't used to it. Rachel was used to it. Her boots hit the tarmac. The surface radiated enough heat to see in waves. Across the concrete, the formation waited. 8 pilots, full flight suits, helmets tucked under arms. They saw her coming. As one, they snapped to attention. Hands rose in perfect salute. Behind Rachel, through the open cabin door, someone gasped. Hayes stepped forward, his voice carrying across the tarmac. Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Cole, call sign Midnight Viper. He turned to the formation. Commanding Officer, 422nd Test and Evaluation Squadron. The salutes held, Rachel returned them. Clean, crisp, muscle memory from 1,000 similar moments. At ease, she said. The formation relaxed. Faces broke into grins. These were her people. Her squadron. Colonel? A familiar voice. Captain Sarah Chen stepped forward, carrying a flight suit. Thought you might need this. Rachel took it, felt the familiar weight. The patches. The name tape. Cole. Above it, embroidered in gold, Midnight Viper. "Brief me," Rachel said, already moving toward the nearest hangar. "What's the situation?" "Multiple UAV contacts," Chen reported, falling into step. "Unidentified, fast movers. They appeared on radar 30 minutes ago and disappeared before we could intercept. Patterns. Deliberate. Testing our response times. Testing our coverage gaps." Rachel's mind shifted. Civilian mode to combat mode. The transition was instant. Familiar. Like coming home. "A wax up?" "Negative. Budget cuts. We're running ground radar only." "Wonderful." Rachel unzipped her hoodie, revealing the simple gray t-shirt underneath, started stripping it off without breaking stride. "Who's on standby?" "Reaper flight. 4 birds. They're spinning up now." Behind them, back at the 737, Rachel knew passengers were pressed against windows, watching, trying to understand what they were seeing. The businessman who'd called her sweetheart, the woman who'd assumed she was a flight attendant, all of them recalculating, reassessing. Too late. Rachel reached the hangar, inside cool shadows and the smell of jet fuel. Her flight suit went on with practiced efficiency. Velcro, zippers, each piece locking into place. An aide approached with a tablet. "Colonel, threat assessment is loaded. Enemy capabilities are unknown. Rules of engagement." "I know the ROE." Rachel scanned the data. Vectors, velocities, approach patterns that made her instincts scream. "This isn't random." "No, ma'am." She looked up. Across the hangar, her bird waited. An F-22 Raptor, tail number 011, her aircraft, her weapon. "Time to intercept?" 8 minutes if you launch now." Rachel was already moving. Her helmet came off the rack, her gloves, each piece of gear settling into its proper place through sheer repetition. "Launch sequence?" she asked, climbing the ladder. "Ready on your mark." She settled into the cockpit. Home. The HUD glowed to life. Displays populated with data. The world reduced to symbols and threats and solutions. Her hands moved through the startup sequence. Muscle memory. She could do this blindfolded. Had, in training. Tower, Viper 1. Request immediate departure, priority Alpha. Viper 1 Tower, you're cleared. Winds 270 at 15, field is yours. The canopy lowered. Sealed. The world outside became filtered through technology and training. Rachel's heartbeat remained steady. 60 beats per minute. The engine spooled to full power. The Raptor trembled. Eager. Predatory. She released brakes. The aircraft lunged forward like something alive. The runway blurred. Rotation speed. Liftoff. The ground fell away and Rachel Cole, call sign Midnight Viper, climbed into the desert sky at full military power, leaving behind a plane load of strangers who'd spent 2 hours learning absolutely nothing about who sat among them. On the tarmac, Major Hayes watched the F-22 disappear into the blue, turned back toward the 737. Inside that cabin, silence had become a physical presence. The businessman sat frozen in 11E, champagne forgotten, his entire worldview experiencing catastrophic systems failure. Olivia stood at the cabin door, finally understanding why her instincts had screamed warning every time she'd looked at the woman in seat 12F. And through it all, 2 more Raptors spooled up, their engines building to a scream that promised violence to anyone stupid enough to test what Rachel Cole and her squadron protected. The businessman's friend broke the silence first. "What just happened?" Nobody answered, because nobody knew, not yet. But they were about to learn what happens when you mistake silence for weakness and calm for surrender. They were about to learn why the woman in the worn hoodie never needed to prove anything. She was too busy actually being everything they'd assumed was impossible. And in the sky above Edwards Air Force Base, with hostile contacts on her radar and her squadron forming up on her wings, Rachel Cole smiled inside her oxygen mask. This right here, this was what belonging actually looked like. Not a seat assignment, not designer luggage, just her aircraft, and the absolute certainty that she'd earned every single second of this moment in ways they would never, could never understand. "Viper 1 has contact," she said into her radio. "Going weapons hot." The tone was calm, professional, absolutely lethal, and somewhere far below, in a grounded 737, a cabin full of strangers finally began to grasp the magnitude of their mistake. The radar contact blinked green on Rachel's HUD, 40 miles out, closing fast. Not commercial. The signature was all wrong. Too small. Too agile. moving in patterns that screamed deliberate evasion. Viper 1, Reaper 2. I have visual on your 6. Captain Chen's voice crackled through the radio, calm despite the tension underneath. Copy Reaper 2. Maintain spread formation. If this goes hot, I want overlapping fields of fire. Roger that. Rachel's hands moved across the controls with muscle memory precision. Throttle adjustment, minor course correction. The F-22 responded like an extension of her thoughts. 35,000 feet and climbing, airspeed pushing Mach 1.4. The bogey-adjusted course matched her altitude change within seconds. Contact is maneuvering, Rachel reported. Definitely tracking us. Viper 1 Tower. Rules of engagement remain defensive posture only. Do not fire unless fired upon. Tower, Viper 1. Understood. Rachel's jaw tightened. Defensive posture against an unknown threat moving with precision that suggested military-grade capability. Fantastic. The distance closed. 30 miles. 25. Her threat warning system remained silent. No targeting radar. No missile lock. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't showing hostile intent. Yet. Reaper flight, visual acquisition in 3, 2. The contact resolved through the haze, small, delta wing configuration. No visible markings. A drone. Advanced, expensive. Definitely not civilian. Tower, Viper 1. Contact identified as UAV, military configuration. Unknown origin, requesting authorization to. The drone banked hard left, impossibly tight. G-forces that would have killed a human pilot. Then it accelerated, hard. Tower, contact is breaking engagement. Bearing 270, descending rapidly. Viper 1, do not pursue beyond operational boundaries. Rachel watched the drone disappear into the desert canyons below, frustration building in her chest like cabin pressure. Someone was testing them, probing their defenses, and she couldn't do a damn thing about it. Reaper flight, return to base. Pattern is clear. They're mapping our response times. Copy Viper 1. Rachel brought her aircraft around, the desert sprawling beneath her in endless variations of brown and tan. Somewhere down there, that drone was transmitting data. Somewhere, someone was watching. The flight back to Edwards took 12 minutes, long enough for her heart rate to drop back to baseline, long enough for the adrenaline to metabolize into the familiar post-flight clarity, long enough to remember she'd left a plane load of civilians staring at an empty seat. The landing was textbook. Touchdown. Reverse thrust. The world decelerating around her until the Raptor rolled to a stop on the same tarmac she'd launched from. The canopy lifted. Desert heat flooded in, carrying the smell of jet fuel and hot concrete. Major Hayes was waiting at the bottom of the ladder, tablet in hand. Colonel? The 737 is still grounded. Passengers are asking questions. Rachel stripped off her helmet. Her hair was matted with sweat, the imprint of oxygen mask visible on her face. What kind of questions? The kind I'm not authorized to answer. Hayes' expression was carefully neutral. Your call, ma'am. She descended the ladder, boots hitting concrete with solid thuds. Around her, ground crew swarmed the aircraft, refueling, systems check, preparing for the next potential scramble. Business as usual. Except for the 737 sitting isolated on the tarmac like a beached whale, windows full of faces trying to make sense of what they'd witnessed. Rachel pulled off her gloves. How long have they been sitting? 43 minutes. Crew status? Captain Morris is getting antsy. Says he's got schedule requirements. FAA regulations about duty hours. Rachel nodded. Civilians and their regulations. Their comfortable boundaries. She'd been living outside those boundaries for 15 years. Tell Morris he's cleared for departure in 10 minutes. I need to debrief first. Hayes hesitated. Ma'am, with respect, some of those passengers saw your launch. They saw the salutes. They're not going to just forget. I don't need them to forget, Major. I need them to sit down and shut up long enough to reach their destination. Rachel's voice was flat, professional, the tone that ended discussions. 10 minutes. Yes, ma'am. She walked toward the operations building, her flight suit dark with sweat in the places where coolant tubes couldn't quite keep up with the Nevada sun. Behind her, she could feel eyes tracking from the 737's windows. Probably wondering, definitely judging, still judging, even now. The ops room was blessedly cool. air conditioning, and the quiet hum of electronics. Captain Chen was already there, pulling up radar data on the main display. 3 separate contacts, Chen reported without preamble. Different approach vectors, same evasion patterns. They're coordinated. Rachel studied the tracks. Clean, professional. Whoever was running these drones knew exactly what they were doing. Time between contacts? 40-minute intervals, like clockwork, which means next one's due in 27 minutes. Chen pulled up a threat assessment. If the pattern holds. Rachel's mind processed the data. 3 contacts. Coordinated. Testing response times and coverage gaps. This was reconnaissance, preparation. For what? Double the CAP rotation, she said. I want birds in the air continuously. If these bastards come back, I want 0 response delay. We don't have the fuel budget for find it. Rob from next week if you have to. This isn't random, Sarah. Someone's planning something. Chen nodded, started making calls. Rachel moved to the window. From here, she could see the 737. Could see Hayes approaching the stairs, probably delivering her message to Captain Morris. Her phone buzzed. She turned it back on after landing. Muscle memory from years of needing to stay connected, stay available. 3 missed calls, all from the same number. Marcus, her husband. She stepped into the hallway, pressed dial. He answered on the first ring. Tell me you're on the ground. I'm on the ground. Rachel's voice softened fractionally, the only person who got that reaction. How'd you know I was up? Edwards notified me the second you scrambled. Rachel, what's going on? They said potential hostile contact, drones, advanced, unknown origin. We couldn't engage. A pause. She could hear him processing, his lawyer brain running scenarios. Marcus Cole didn't panic. One of the many reasons she'd married him. Are you safe? For now, they were just testing us. Testing for what? That's the million-dollar question. Rachel checked her watch. Listen, I'm stuck here for another hour minimum. That flight I was on, the civilian one? Yeah, it's grounded. I need to get back on it, finish the trip. Why don't you just hop a military transport? Because showing up at a civilian airport in a C-130 defeats the purpose of keeping a low profile. She rubbed her eyes. Fatigue was starting to creep in around the edges. The whole point was to travel quietly. How's that working out? Despite everything, Rachel almost smiled. About as well as you'd expect. So everyone on that plane now knows you're military. Everyone on that plane now knows I'm not what they assumed. The specifics are still classified. Marcus made a sound that might have been a laugh. You told me once that assumptions were tactical advantages. They are. Until they're not. Through the window, she watched ground crew disconnect refueling lines from her Raptor. I need to go. Debrief isn't done. Be careful. Always am. That's a lie, but I appreciate the effort. This time she did smile. Love you. Love you too. And Rachel? Those people on the plane. What about them? Try not to enjoy their discomfort too much. She hung up without responding. Because he was right. Because there was a part of her, the part that had fought for every inch of respect in a career field that didn't want her, that wanted to walk back onto that 737 and watch them squirm. The professional part knew better. Major Hayes appeared at the end of the hallway. Colonel, Captain Morris is requesting immediate departure. Says he's already pushed his duty hour limits. Rachel checked her watch again. Fine. Tell him he's cleared. And you, ma'am? I'll be there in 5. She returned to the ops room. Chen was coordinating the new cap schedule, her voice clipped and efficient over the radio, the kind of efficiency that came from running exercises until they became instinct. Sarah? Chen looked up. You've got operational command until I'm back. If those contacts return, intercept and identify, engage only on positive hostile action. And if they make a run at the base itself? Chen's expression hardened. Then they'll learn why we get the big toys. Rachel nodded, left her flight suit in her locker, back to jeans and the worn hoodie that had started this whole mess. The transformation felt wrong now, like putting on camouflage that no longer worked. The walk back to the 737 was short. The air stairs were still extended, a ground crew member standing at the bottom like a reluctant doorman. Rachel climbed. The cabin had changed, not physically. Same seats, same overhead bins, same recycled air, but the atmosphere was different, dense, like everyone was holding their breath. Every eye tracked her progress down the aisle. She reached 12F, sat down. buckled her seatbelt with the same practice motion she'd used 1,000 times in fighter cockpits. Nobody spoke. The businessman in 11E stared straight ahead, his champagne glass empty, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. His friend in 11D pretended to be absorbed in his phone, but his hands weren't moving, weren't scrolling, just holding the device like a shield. Olivia appeared from the galley, her professional mask back in place but fragile, cracking at the edges. "Miss Cole," she said carefully, "can I get you anything?" Rachel met her eyes, saw recognition there, understanding, maybe, or just fear. "I'm good." Olivia nodded, retreated, moved through her pre-flight duties with movements that were mechanical, automatic. The captain's voice returned to the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been cleared for immediate departure. Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff." The engine spooled up, that familiar whine building to a roar. Rachel watched the base slide past her window. Hangars, aircraft. The people who understood what she did and why it mattered. Her people. The 737 turned onto the runway. Accelerated. Liftoff. Edwards fell away beneath them, becoming abstract again. Patterns in the sand. They climbed through 10,000 feet before anyone spoke. It was the platinum blonde from earlier. She'd turned in her seat, facing back toward Rachel's row. "I have to know," the woman said. Her voice was quieter now, less certain. What was that? What are you?" Rachel considered not answering, considered maintaining the silence that had served her well for the past hour. But Marcus's words echoed. "Try not to enjoy their discomfort too much." "I'm a pilot," she said simply. "But those jets, the salutes, you're military." "Yes." "What rank?" Rachel's eyes stayed on the window, on the clouds building over the wing. "Lieutenant Colonel." A ripple moved through the cabin, not quite gasps, more like the collective sound of people recalculating everything they'd assumed. The businessman in 11E finally turned. His face was pale. "I called you. Earlier, I said, I know what you said." "I didn't know. I mean, how was I supposed to—" You weren't." Rachel's voice was neutral, factual. "That was kind of the point." He opened his mouth, closed it, looked like a fish drowning in air. The platinum blonde wasn't done. "But you're so young. How are you a colonel?" Rachel finally looked at her, really looked, saw the genuine confusion there, mixed with something that might have been respect or might have been fear. Hard to tell. 15 years of service, combat deployments, test pilot school, being better than good enough. She paused, and not giving a damn what people think about my hoodie. Silence. Then from somewhere in the back, "Holy shit!" Rachel almost smiled. Almost. Olivia appeared again, this time without the pretense of service. She stopped in the aisle, one hand on the seat back for balance. "I owe you an apology," the flight attendant said. "No, you don't." "I do. I made assumptions. I treated you like everyone else did." Rachel's tone wasn't cruel, just honest. "You're not unique in that." "Still, I'm sorry." Rachel nodded, acceptance without absolution. "Noted." The seatbelt sign chimed off. The cabin relaxed fractionally, though the tension remained like static electricity before a storm. The businessman's friend leaned into the aisle. "Can I ask, what were you doing? Back there at the base?" "My job." "Which is?" "Classified." "Come on, we saw you launch. We saw the whole thing." Rachel's eyes shifted to him, cold, precise. The look she gave enemy contacts when deciding whether to engage. "You saw an F-22 take off. That's it. Everything else is above your pay grade." He flinched, actually flinched. Someone else spoke up. A man Rachel hadn't noticed before, seated across the aisle. Older, gray hair. Something in his bearing suggested military background. "Test pilot?" he asked. Rachel studied him, saw the recognition in his eyes, the understanding. "Among other things." He nodded, didn't press. Knew better. The platinum blonde was still processing. "So when you said you worked in aviation, I wasn't lying. But you let us think. I let you think whatever you wanted to think. That's on you, not me." Rachel pulled out her book again, same page she'd been on for the past 2 hours. "I don't owe strangers my resume." The woman sat back, looking stunned. The cabin fell into an uncomfortable quiet. Not the casual silence of normal flight, but the loaded quiet of people realizing they'd badly misjudged something important. Rachel tried to read. The words still wouldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting back to those drones, the patterns, the precision. Someone was planning something, and she had no idea what. Her phone buzzed. Text message from a number she didn't recognize. Unknown contact confirmed Chinese origin. Satellite imaging shows 3 more operating from mobile launchers. Details classified. Return to base ASAP. Rachel's jaw tightened. Chinese. That complicated things. Changed the threat assessment from concerning to critical. She texted back, ETA 90 minutes. Brief my XO. Full defensive posture. The response was immediate. Already done. Watch your 6, Colonel. Rachel pocketed her phone, stared out the window at clouds that suddenly seemed less peaceful and more like cover for threats she couldn't see. Everything okay? The older man across the aisle. Quiet voice, concerned. Fine. You look like someone just told you the world's ending. Just work. Rachel forced her shoulders to relax. Always work. He nodded knowingly. I did 25 years Air Force, cargo mostly, but I recognize that look. Something's wrong. Rachel glanced at him, saw sincerity there, the kind of concern that came from shared experience. Can't talk about it, she said. Didn't think so. He extended his hand across the aisle. Jack Morrison, Major, retired. She shook it. Rachel Cole. I know. Heard the Major at the base. Morrison settled back in his seat. For what it's worth, you handled that whole thing with more grace than I would have. How would you have handled it? Probably would have told that jackass in 11E to shut his mouth somewhere over Arizona. A slight smile. But I was never known for diplomacy. Despite everything, Rachel felt some of the tension ease. Diplomacy's overrated. Damn right it is. They fell into companionable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. The businessman in 11E was on his phone now, typing furiously, probably texting someone about his brush with military aviation, probably making himself the hero of a story where he was actually the punchline. Rachel didn't care. The platinum blonde had her laptop out, but she kept glancing back. Curious. Still trying to reconcile the woman in the hoodie with the officer who'd commanded salutes from elite pilots. Good luck with that, Rachel thought. Olivia came through with the beverage cart. When she reached Rachel's row, she paused. I'm upgrading you to the good water, she said quietly. San Pellegrino. No charge. Rachel looked up, saw the peace offering in the gesture, the attempt at amends. Thanks. Olivia poured it into a crystal glass. Not plastic. The same crystal the businessman had gotten without asking. Small victory, meaningless in the grand scheme, but victories nonetheless. The flight continued. Miles disappeared beneath them. The sun tracked across the sky, throwing long shadows through the cabin. Rachel's mind wouldn't settle. Those drones, Chinese origin, mobile launchers, which meant they could pop up anywhere, test defenses anywhere. Edwards was just the beginning. She pulled out her phone, sent a message to Chen, run a probability analysis. Where else would they test? The response took 5 minutes. Nellis, Vandenberg, potentially Creech. Anywhere with high-value assets and predictable response patterns. Notify regional commands. This is bigger than us. Already in the works. You taught me well, boss. Rachel almost smiled at that. Almost. The businessman finally worked up the courage to turn around. Colonel Cole? She looked at him. Waited. I just wanted to say what I said earlier about standards and belonging. I didn't mean, yes, you did. He blinked. Excuse me? You meant every word. You believed it. Still believe it, probably. The only thing that's changed is now you know I outrank whatever assumptions you made. Rachel's voice was calm, clinical. Don't apologize for thinking it. Apologize for saying it out loud. His face went through several colors before settling on red. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. Apology noted. He turned back around. Didn't try again. Morrison chuckled quietly. You don't give an inch, do you? Giving inches got me nowhere for the first 5 years of my career, Rachel said. I learned better. Hard way? Is there any other way? Fair point. Morrison flagged down Olivia. Bourbon? Neat? Make it a double. Olivia nodded, looked at Rachel. Anything for you? I'm flying later. I'm good. Morrison raised an eyebrow. You're going back up? Soon as we land. Those contacts they scrambled you for, they coming back? Rachel met his eyes, saw understanding there, the kind that came from years of reading between classified lines. Probably, she said. Then give 'em hell. He raised his glass when it arrived. To keeping the sky safe from assholes who don't appreciate it. Rachel couldn't help it. She smiled. Actually smiled. I'll drink to that, she said, raising her San Pellegrino. They touched glasses across the aisle, crystal against crystal. Outside, the clouds continued their endless formations. Below, America spread out in geometric patches of civilization and wilderness. Somewhere in that vastness, mobile launchers were preparing another test, another probe. Rachel would be ready. She always was. The rest of the flight passed in relative quiet. The cabin had settled into an uneasy acceptance. People stopped staring, stopped whispering. They didn't understand her, didn't need to. She wasn't there to be understood. An hour from landing, Rachel's phone buzzed again. Fourth contact, different signature, faster, more aggressive. Reaper flight engaged but lost visual in canyon terrain. Whatever this is, it's escalating. Chen Rachel's fingers drummed against her armrest. Once, twice, the rhythm of weapons hot. I'm coming, she texted back. We'll be ready. The captain's voice returned. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent. Flight attendants, prepare the cabin. Rachel buckled her seatbelt, checked her watch, calculated flight time back to Edwards. She could be wheels up in 40 minutes if she pushed it. 35 if she really pushed. The businessman glanced back one more time. Are you going back to the base? Yes. Is everything okay? I mean, is there something we should... Everything's fine. The lie came easily, necessary. Just routine follow-up. He didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes. Good instincts, wrong clearance level. The plane descended through clouds. The city appeared below, sprawling, complex, completely unaware of the chess game being played in the airspace above it. Touchdown was smooth, the familiar sensation of gravity reasserting its claim. They taxied to the gate. The seatbelt sign chimed off. People stood, reached for overhead bins, resumed their normal lives. Rachel stayed seated, waited for the crowd to thin. Morrison stood, retrieved his bag, paused at her row. Colonel, it was an honor. She looked up. Fly safe, Major. You too. He hesitated. Whatever's waiting for you at Edwards, you've got this. I know. He nodded, moved toward the exit. The cabin emptied. Olivia appeared one last time. Ms. Cole, Colonel Cole, I just wanted to say thank you for not making this harder than it had to be. Rachel stood, grabbed her backpack. You were doing your job. I get it. Still, thank you. They walked toward the exit together. At the door, Rachel paused. The businessman was standing in the jetway, phone pressed to his ear, talking animated, probably already spinning the story, making himself sound better than he'd been. Let him, Rachel thought. She descended into the terminal. Normal people doing normal things, shopping, eating, waiting for flights, none of them knowing what was happening in the sky above. Rachel found a quiet corner, called the base direct line. Hayes answered. Colonel? Status. Contact 4 disappeared 20 minutes ago. No sign since. But we're picking up radar ghosts at the edge of our coverage. They're still out there. I need immediate transport. Military flight if available, civilian if not. Already arranged. C-130, departing Miramar in 40 minutes. They'll have you back here in 90. Good. Rachel checked the departures board. I'm heading there now. Colonel, these contacts, they're not just testing anymore. That last one made a run at our perimeter, broke off at the last second. Rachel's blood went cold. Deliberate provocation. That's our assessment. Which means they want us to engage, want us to show our full capabilities. Or they're preparing for something bigger. Both options were bad. One was catastrophic. Double the CAP again. I want continuous coverage, overlapping fields of fire. If they come back, we light them up. No, we track them. Follow them back to source if possible. I want to know who's running this operation. A pause. That's going to require authorization above my pay grade. Then get it. I'm on my way. She hung up. Started walking toward ground transportation. Behind her, the terminal continued its normal chaos. People living lives where the biggest threat was a delayed flight or lost luggage. Rachel envied them, just a little, just for a second. Then she stepped outside into the California sun and flagged down a taxi to Miramar. She had drones to hunt. And somewhere out in the desert, an enemy she couldn't see was making moves she didn't understand. Yet. The C-130's cargo bay smelled like hydraulic fluid and decades of military operations. Rachel sat on the web seating, her backpack wedged between her boots, watching California disappear through the small porthole window. The loadmaster, a kid who looked barely old enough to shave, kept glancing at her like she was going to sprout wings. "Ma'am, can I get you anything?" he asked for the third time. "I'm good." "Coffee, water, we've got MREs if all—" I said, "I'm good. Airman?" He nodded quickly, retreated to the front of the bay where he couldn't make eye contact. Rachel closed her eyes, tried to quiet her mind. Failed. Those drones weren't random. The patterns were too deliberate, the timing too precise. Someone was orchestrating this, testing American response capabilities with the kind of patience that suggested long-term planning. Which meant this wasn't just reconnaissance, this was preparation. Her phone buzzed. Signal was spotty at altitude, but texts were getting through. "Contact 5, multiple signatures." They're not even trying to hide anymore. Chen Rachel's eyes snapped open. She typed back, "How many? 7 confirmed. Different configurations. Some we've never seen before. ROE? Status? Still defensive only. Command is dragging their feet on authorization." Rachel's fingers tightened around her phone. Defensive posture against an escalating threat. Typical bureaucratic paralysis. She stood, moved to the front of the cargo bay where the crew chief was monitoring communications. "I need encrypted SATCOM, priority channel to Edwards Air Operations." The crew chief looked up, saw her rank insignia. "Yes, ma'am. Give me 2 minutes." He worked quickly, established the connection, handed her a headset. "Edwards Ops, this is Colonel Cole. Patch me through to Major Hayes." Static. Then, "Colonel, Hayes here. I'm hearing 7 contacts. Confirm." "Confirmed. They appeared 15 minutes ago. Different approach vectors. More aggressive flight patterns." "And we're still on defensive posture?" A pause. "Command is concerned about international incident. These are definitely Chinese platforms. If we don't engage, we're giving them free rein to map every inch of our airspace." Rachel's voice was tight, controlled. "What's your tactical assessment?" "Honestly, they're baiting us, waiting to see what we'll do. Then we don't take the bait. We follow them. Track them back to wherever they're launching from." "That would require— I know what it requires. Get me authorization for pursuit beyond normal operational boundaries. I want to know where these things are coming from." "Colonel, that's going to take time. The chain of command—" "Then start climbing it. Now." Rachel checked her watch. "I'm wheels down in 45 minutes. Have my bird prepped and ready." "Yes, ma'am." She handed the headset back to the crew chief, returned to her seat. The loadmaster was watching again. "Everything okay, ma'am?" "Fine." "You seem tense." Rachel looked at him. Really looked. Saw genuine concern there, not just protocol. "How old are you, Airman?" 22, ma'am." "You ever been in combat?" "No, ma'am. This is my first deployment stateside." "Good. Let's keep it that way." She settled back against the bulkhead. "And stop asking if I need anything. If I need something, I'll tell you." "Yes, ma'am." The C-130 droned on, the distinctive sound of turboprops fighting against physics and winning through sheer mechanical stubbornness. Rachel's mind wouldn't settle. 7 drones. Multiple configurations. This was beyond testing. This was a show of force or a distraction. That thought hit like a missile lock warning. What if the drones weren't the real threat? What if they were meant to pull resources, to concentrate defensive assets in one area while something else happened somewhere else? She grabbed her phone, texted Chen, "Run threat assessment on other installations. Check for anomalous activity anywhere within 200 miles of Edwards." The response took 3 minutes. "Nothing on radar, but we're picking up increased encrypted communications traffic on known Chinese military frequencies. Coordinated operation? Possible. Intelligence is analyzing now." Rachel stared at her phone, pieces of a puzzle she couldn't quite see the shape of yet. The C-130 began its descent, that distinctive sensation of falling while staying level. The loadmaster moved through the bay, checking tie-downs and preparing for landing. Through the porthole, Rachel could see the desert, the same endless tan and brown that had been there this morning. That would be there tomorrow, unchanging. eternal, unlike everything else. Touchdown was rough. The C-130 wasn't built for comfort. It hit the runway like it had a grudge against gravity. The cargo ramp lowered before they'd fully stopped. Heat and light flooded in. Rachel was moving before the loadmaster could unhook the safety netting. Down the ramp, boots on tarmac. A Humvee was waiting, Hayes in the passenger seat. "Colonel." He barely waited for her to climb in before signaling the driver. "Situation's deteriorated. We've got 9 contacts now. They're forming a perimeter around the base." "A perimeter?" "Yes, ma'am. Like they're setting up for something." Rachel's blood went cold. "Surveillance positions. That's our assessment. Or targeting solutions." Hayes' face went pale. "You think they're preparing to strike?" "I think we need to assume worst-case scenario until proven otherwise." She pulled out her phone. "Get me General Mathis at Northcom. Priority 1. "Ma'am, I don't have the authority to—" "I do. Make the call." The Humvee screeched to a stop outside the operations building. Rachel was out before it fully stopped. Through the doors, into the cool darkness where screens glowed with radar data and threat assessments, Captain Chen looked up from the main display. "Colonel, thank Christ, these contacts are—" "I know what they are." Rachel moved to the tactical display. 9 blips, arranged in an almost perfect circle around Edwards. How long have they held this formation? 12 minutes. Altitude? Varying, between 15,000 and 25,000 feet. They're using cloud cover. Rachel studied the pattern. Professional, disciplined. This wasn't testing anymore. This was a statement. Hayes appeared at her elbow. "General Mathis is on secure line. He's not happy." Rachel took the handset. "General?" "Colonel Cole." The voice was gravelly, authoritative. "Major Hayes tells me you're requesting authorization for offensive engagement against foreign aircraft in U.S. airspace." "Not offensive, sir. Pursuit and identification. We need to know where these platforms are launching from. And if pursuit leads to engagement, then we engage." Rachel's voice was flat. "Final. Sir, with respect, these contacts are currently surrounding a major U.S. installation. They're holding formation like they're waiting for orders. If we don't act now—" "I'm aware of the tactical situation, Colonel. I'm also aware of the diplomatic situation. The State Department is already screaming about international incidents." "Then they should have thought about that before someone flew military drones into our airspace." A pause. "You're asking me to authorize an action that could escalate into something bigger." "I'm asking you to authorize me to defend U.S. assets and personnel. That's my job. That's our job." Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "Authorization granted. Rules of engagement are as follows. Track and identify. Engage only if fired upon, or if contacts demonstrate clear hostile intent. Do not pursue beyond a 50-mile radius from Edwards. And Colonel?" "Yes, sir?" "Don't start a war." "No, sir." The line went dead. Rachel handed the phone back to Hayes, turned to Chen. "Get Reaper Flight airborne, full loadout. I want overlapping coverage on every one of those contacts. They're already spinning up." "Good. I'm taking lead." Rachel was already moving toward the locker room. "Have my bird ready in 5 minutes." "Colonel." Hayes followed. "Are you sure about this? If something goes wrong, then it goes wrong on my watch. Under my command. That's what the rank is for, Major." She stopped, looked at him. "You have a problem with that?" "No, ma'am." "Then get out of my way." The locker room was empty. Rachel stripped out of her civilian clothes with mechanical efficiency. Jeans, hoodie, the uniform of someone trying to blend in. Blending in was over. Her flight suit went on like armor. Each zipper, each Velcro patch, each piece of gear settling into place through pure repetition. Cole. Midnight Viper. The patches weren't decoration. They were identity, achievement, proof that she'd earned every inch of the skies she defended. Her phone buzzed one last time. Marcus. "News is reporting unusual military activity at Edwards. Please tell me you're not about to do something stupid." She typed back. "Define stupid. Anything that involves you getting shot at. Then I'm about to do something very stupid. Love you. Rachel." She pocketed the phone. Didn't wait for his response. Couldn't afford to. The tarmac was organized chaos. Ground crews swarming aircraft. Ordnance being loaded. The controlled violence of preparation. Her Raptor sat ready. Canopy open. Waiting. Rachel climbed the ladder, settled into the cockpit. Home. Her hands moved through the startup sequence. Muscle memory. Religion. Tower, Viper 1. Request immediate departure. Viper 1 Tower. You're cleared. Reaper flight is already airborne. They're holding at Angels 20, waiting for your mark. Copy. Viper 1 rolling. The Raptor moved, taxied, positioned. Rachel ran her pre-flight checks. Systems green, weapons hot. Everything reading nominal. Outside, ground crew cleared the area. Gave her the signal. She released brakes. The world accelerated. Runway blurred. Rotation speed, liftoff. The desert dropped away. Rachel climbed hard. Full military power. The G-forces pressed her into the seat. Familiar. Welcome. At 20,000 feet, she leveled off. Scanned her displays. 9 contacts. Still holding formation. Still waiting. Reaper flight, Viper 1. I have visual on the formation. Maintain current positions. I'm gonna rattle the cage. Viper 1, Reaper 2. Acknowledge. We've got your 6. Rachel armed her systems. Not to fire, just to send a message. She accelerated, pushed through Mach 1. The sonic boom rippled across the desert below. The contacts didn't move. Viper 1 to unknown aircraft. You are in restricted U.S. airspace. Identify yourself immediately or you will be engaged. Silence. Rachel banked hard. Positioned herself between the formation and the base. A physical barrier. Still no response. This is your final warning. Identify or leave U.S. airspace immediately. One of the contacts moved. Broke formation. Accelerated toward her. Rachel's threat warning system screamed. Missile lock. Reaper flight Viper 1. I'm spiked. Going defensive. She rolled. Dove. The Raptor screaming through maneuvers that would have killed a lesser pilot. The contact stayed with her. Matched every turn. Every roll. This wasn't a drone. Someone was flying this thing remotely. Someone with training. Someone who knew what they were doing. Viper 1, Reaper 2. Second contact is breaking toward you. You've got company. Rachel checked her 6. Saw it. Another contact, different configuration, closing fast. They were boxing her in. Reaper flight, engage, repeat, weapons free. Engage. Viper 1, confirm weapons free. Confirmed, light them up. The sky erupted. Missiles streaked from Reaper flight, brilliant white contrails against blue. The contacts scattered, formation breaking, each one taking evasive action. Rachel locked on to the nearest one. Fired. The missile flew true. Impact. The drone disintegrated in a ball of fire and debris. Splash 1, she reported. Reaper flight, status. Reaper 2, Splash 1. Reaper 3, tracking. Reaper 4, engaged. Rachel banked hard, searching for her next target. Found it. Another drone, this one larger. Different configuration. She fired again. Miss. The drone rolled, impossibly tight, then accelerated, straight up. Rachel followed, climbing, her engines screaming, G-forces building. The drone leveled at 40,000 feet, held position. Rachel closed the distance, got a lock. Her finger tensed on the trigger. Then her radio crackled. Different frequency. Not her squadron. A voice. Male. Accented. Chinese. Lieutenant Colonel Cole, call sign Midnight Viper, we've been waiting for you. Rachel's blood froze. Identify yourself. That's not important. What's important is that you understand the message we're sending. The message is you've violated U.S. airspace. The response is, we're shooting you down. A laugh. Cold. You've destroyed 3 drones. We have 40 more ready to launch. This was never about the drones, Colonel. This was about showing you that we can reach you. Anywhere. Anytime. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Your defenses are impressive, but they have gaps. We've mapped them all. Rachel's mind raced. This was intelligence gathering, real-time assessment of U.S. capabilities, and she'd just given them exactly what they wanted. Viper 1, Reaper flight. Remaining contacts are withdrawing. They're leaving U.S. airspace. Rachel watched her radar. The contacts were moving, breaking off, heading east. Let them go, she said. Colonel? Chen's voice on the command frequency. We have clear shots. We can... I said let them go. They got what they came for. The contacts disappeared from radar, one by one, until her screen was clear. Rachel circled, scanning, waiting for the next move. It didn't come. Viper 1 Tower, you're cleared to RTB. Return to base, stand down. Mission complete. Except it wasn't complete. It was just beginning. Rachel descended. The adrenaline was starting to metabolize, leaving behind the familiar crash. The post-combat clarity that made everything sharp and terrible. Landing was automatic. Muscle memory. The Raptor touched down smooth. Rolled to a stop. Ground crew swarmed, chalking wheels, hooking up power. Rachel sat in the cockpit, hands still on the controls, breathing hard. They'd been played. The drones, the formation, the engagement. All of it designed to make her reveal capabilities, response times, tactics, and she'd done exactly that. "Colonel?" A voice from below. "Hayes. Are you okay?" Rachel popped the canopy. Desert heat flooded in. "I'm fine." That was incredible. "You took down..." "We walked into a trap, Major." Rachel climbed down the ladder. Her legs were shaky. Post-flight fatigue. "They baited us. We bit. Now they have everything they need to plan a real assault." Hayes' face went pale. "What do we do?" "We prepare. We adapt. We make sure next time we're ready." She pulled off her helmet. Her hair was soaked with sweat. "Get me a full debrief packet. Everything we learned. Everything they learned. I want analysis on my desk in 2 hours." "Yes, ma'am." Rachel walked toward the operations building, each step feeling heavier than the last. Inside, the ops room was quiet. Chen stood at the tactical display, staring at empty radar screens. 7 drones destroyed, Chen reported without looking up. 3 by you, 4 by Reaper flight. The rest withdrew before we could engage. They withdrew because they got what they came for. Rachel moved to the display, studied the replay of the engagement. "Look at the patterns. Every maneuver we made, every response time. They were recording all of it. For what purpose? To beat us next time." Rachel's jaw tightened. This wasn't a test, it was a dress rehearsal. Her phone rang, unknown number. She answered anyway. "Cole." "Colonel." The same voice from the radio. The same accent. "Impressive flying. Your reputation is well earned." Rachel's free hand clenched into a fist. "Who is this?" "Someone who appreciates skill, even in an adversary." A pause. "Tell me, Colonel, do you know why we chose Edwards?" "Enlighten me." "Because you're there. Midnight Viper. The pilot who shot down 3 enemy aircraft over the South China Sea. The pilot who broke every training record at Top Gun. The pilot who thinks she's untouchable." "I don't think I'm untouchable. I just think I'm better than you." Another laugh. "We'll see. Today was introduction. Tomorrow will be something else entirely." "That another threat?" "It's a promise. Sleep well, Colonel. What's left of your night, anyway." The line went dead. Rachel lowered the phone, stared at it like it might offer answers. "Colonel?" Chen's voice was quiet, concerned. "What was that?" "Psychological warfare." Rachel pocketed the phone. "They're trying to get in my head." "Is it working?" Rachel met her XO's eyes, saw the worry there, the fear. "No," she lied, because admitting the truth that someone had just proved they could reach her, contact her, threaten her directly would mean admitting vulnerability. And vulnerability got people killed. "Get me satellite coverage of the area they withdrew to. I want to know where those drones landed, where they're launching from." "That's going to require..." "I don't care what it requires. Make it happen." Chen nodded, turned to make calls. Rachel walked to the window, stared out at the tarmac, at a Raptor being refueled, rearmed, prepared for the next fight. Because there would be a next fight. The voice on the phone had made that clear. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Flight suit, rank insignia, the uniform of someone who'd spent 15 years proving she belonged. And somewhere out in the desert, an enemy she couldn't see was preparing to test whether that proof was enough. Rachel touched the glass, felt the heat radiating through. "Tomorrow," she whispered to her reflection. Tomorrow would bring answers. Or it would bring war. Either way, she'd be ready. She'd have to be. Because the alternative, failure, defeat, losing the sky she'd fought so hard to defend, wasn't an option, had never been an option, would never be an option. Rachel Cole, call sign Midnight Viper, turned away from the window, walked back to the tactical display where Chen was coordinating satellite coverage. "Find them," she said quietly. "We will." "No." Rachel's voice hardened. Find them now, because if we don't, the next time they show up won't be drones. Chen looked up, understanding dawning. You think they're planning something bigger? I know they are. That phone call wasn't gloating, it was confirmation. They wanted me to know this isn't over. Then we prepare. We do better than prepare. Rachel's eyes fixed on the empty radar screens. We hunt. Outside, the sun was setting over the desert, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Beautiful. Deceptive. Like everything else. Rachel stood watch. Waited. Planned. Tomorrow would come whether she was ready or not. She intended to be ready. The conference room at 0200 hours felt like a tomb. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in that particular shade of exhausted that only happened deep into a crisis. Rachel sat at the head of the table, still in her flight suit, surrounded by faces that ranged from concerned to openly hostile. General Mathis occupied the screen on the far wall via secure video link. His expression was carved from granite. 7 drones destroyed, he said without preamble. $40 million in ordnance expended. International incident brewing with Beijing, and you're telling me it was all a setup. Rachel met his eyes through the camera. Yes, sir. Explain. They wanted to see our response capability, time from scramble to engagement, weapons systems, tactics. We gave them a full demonstration. She pulled up the tactical replay on the main screen. Look at the flight patterns. They weren't evading. They were forcing us to show our hand. That's speculation, Colonel. It's analysis based on 15 years of combat experience. Rachel's voice stayed level, professional. Sir, they contacted me directly after the engagement, knew my name, my call sign, details that aren't public record. That got attention. Mathis leaned forward. They contacted you how? Phone call, encrypted line, came through while I was still in the cockpit. She pulled out her phone, set it on the table. I want this analyzed. Trace the signal if possible. Major Hayes picked up the phone. Colonel, if they have your personal number, then they've been planning this for a while. Rachel looked back at the screen. General, this wasn't a probing attack. This was intelligence gathering, and now they have everything they need to plan something bigger. A man in a suit spoke up from the corner. Rachel hadn't noticed him before. Civilian. Probably State Department or CIA. Colonel Cole. I'm David Preston, Deputy Director of National Intelligence. His voice was smooth, political. Your assessment is troubling, but we need to be careful about escalation. The diplomatic repercussions of letting foreign military aircraft violate U.S. airspace? Rachel cut him off. What about those? Preston's smile was tight. The situation is more complex than you realize. Then uncomplex it for me. Colonel! General Mathis's voice carried warning. Rachel didn't back down. Sir, with respect, someone just proved they can penetrate our airspace, engage our aircraft, and walk away with detailed intelligence on our defensive capabilities. That's not complex. That's a problem. Preston straightened his tie. The president is aware of the situation. Diplomatic channels are being explored. We need to give those channels time to... Time? Rachel stood. Couldn't help it. Energy needed somewhere to go. They told me tomorrow would be different. That's not diplomatic language. That's a threat. It could be posturing. Or it could be a warning. She turned to Mathis. General, I need authorization to expand our defensive perimeter. Double the cap coverage. Alert status raised to DEFCON 3 for this sector. That's a significant escalation, Colonel. So is flying military drones in circles around a U.S. Air Force base. Rachel planted her hands on the table. Sir, they're coming back, I guarantee it. And when they do, I want to be ready. Mathis was silent for a long moment. Then, authorization granted. But Colonel, no engagement unless absolutely necessary. We shoot first next time. There's no walking this back. Understood, sir. The general's image flickered, disappeared. The screen went dark. Preston remained standing. Colonel, a word in private? Rachel looked at Hayes, at Chen. Give us the room. They filed out. The door closed with a soft click. Preston moved to the window, stared out at the tarmac where maintenance crews worked under floodlights. You have an impressive record. Top Gun instructor, combat kills, test pilot certification, youngest female lieutenant colonel in Air Force history. You read my file. I read everyone's file. It's my job. He turned. But files don't tell the whole story, do they? Rachel waited. This was going somewhere. The South China Sea incident. 3 enemy aircraft destroyed. You were awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. I was doing my job. Your job almost started a war. Preston's voice was quiet, sharp. One of those aircraft you shot down? The pilot was a colonel in the PLA Air Force, son of a party official. They wanted your head. They got their chance today, sent drones instead. This isn't a joke, Colonel. I'm not laughing. Rachel's eyes were cold. You think I don't know what I did? I killed 3 pilots. I remember their faces every time I close my eyes. But they fired first. They had lock. I responded. According to your report, the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Say that again, Rachel said quietly. Preston held up his hands. I'm not questioning your account. I'm telling you how Beijing sees it. In their version, you were the aggressor. You provoked the engagement. That's a lie. That's politics. And politics don't care about truth. They care about narrative. He moved closer. These drones today, they're part of a larger strategy. Beijing wants to paint the U.S. as aggressive, militaristic. They want incidents they can point to and say, see, American imperialism. So what? We just let them fly wherever they want? We choose our battles carefully. We don't give them ammunition for their propaganda machine. Rachel laughed, no humor in it. You want me to roll over? I want you to be smart. Preston's expression was hard. You're a symbol, Colonel, whether you like it or not. First female pilot to shoot down enemy aircraft in combat. Every decision you make gets scrutinized. Every action gets magnified. Then they should scrutinize this. I defended U.S. airspace. I followed ROE. I did my job. She moved toward the door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a base to defend. Colonel Cole. Preston's voice stopped her. The people who called you today, they didn't choose you randomly. They know your history, your temper. They're trying to provoke you into making a mistake. Rachel's hand paused on the doorknob. I don't make mistakes in the cockpit. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is whether you recognize them before they kill people. She left without responding, stepped into the hallway where Hayes and Chen waited. What did he say? Chen asked. Nothing important. Rachel checked her watch. 2:37 hours. Status on satellite coverage? Hayes pulled up a tablet. We've got imagery from the withdrawal vectors. There's a facility approximately 70 miles east of here, abandoned industrial complex, but thermal shows recent activity. Show me. They moved to the operations room, the main screen populated with satellite imagery, grainy, heat signature overlays showing multiple sources. That's where they launched from, Rachel said with certainty. We don't have confirmation. I don't need confirmation. I need authorization to run a reconnaissance flight. Colonel, that facility is technically outside our operational boundary. Hayes looked uncomfortable. General Mathis said no engagement unless... This isn't engagement, it's reconnaissance. Rachel studied the imagery. I'm not asking permission, Major. I'm informing you of my intent. Prep my bird. Ma'am, that's an order. Hayes hesitated, then nodded. Yes, ma'am. Chen stepped closer, quiet voice. Rachel, are you sure about this? Rachel looked at her XO, her friend. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That thing Preston said about them trying to provoke you, I heard him. And I don't care. Someone's planning an attack on U.S. soil. I'm not going to sit here and wait for it to happen. She moved toward the door. You have operational command while I'm airborne. Anything happens, you know what to do. Don't get shot down. Rachel almost smiled. Wasn't planning on it. The tarmac was quiet. Most of the base was asleep, only essential personnel moving through the darkness like shadows. Her Raptor sat waiting, already prepped, already armed. Rachel climbed the ladder, settled in. The cockpit wrapped around her like a second skin. Startup sequence. Systems check. Weapons hot. Tower, Viper 1. Request departure for reconnaissance flight. A pause. Then, Viper 1 Tower, you're not on the flight schedule. Priority override. Authorization code, Victor Tango 779er. Another pause. Longer. Someone was making calls, checking. Viper 1, you're cleared. Winds are calm. Field is yours. Rachel released brakes. The Raptor rolled forward. No turning back now. The takeoff was smooth, practiced. She'd done this 1,000 times, would do it 1,000 more if she lived that long. At Angels 25, she leveled off, checked her navigation. The facility was 43 minutes away at current speed. 43 minutes to think about Preston's warning, about being provoked, about making mistakes. Her radio crackled. Chen's voice. Viper 1, Ops, be advised. We're picking up encrypted communications on the same frequency as earlier. They know I'm coming. Appears that way. Want me to scramble back up? Rachel checked her threat displays. Clear. For now. Negative. I'm going in quiet. Anything changes, you'll be the first to know. Copy. Viper 1, be careful. Always am. The desert scrolled beneath her, invisible in the darkness, only visible through infrared and instruments. Rachel's mind drifted, back to the South China Sea, to the engagement that had defined her career and nearly ended it. She'd been flying CAP off the USS Lincoln, routine patrol. Then the warning, multiple bogies inbound, fast, hostile. The rules of engagement had been clear, defensive posture only, but the Chinese fighters had locked her up, missiles armed. She'd had maybe 3 seconds to decide, engage or die. She'd chosen engage. 3 aircraft down, 3 pilots dead, and every night since she saw their faces, imagined their families, wondered if they'd had wives, kids, people who missed them. War wasn't clean, wasn't heroic, it was just necessary, sometimes. Viper 1, Ops, you're approaching the target area. Thermal is showing increased activity. Rachel shook off the memories. Focused. Copy. Beginning reconnaissance run. She descended, dropped to 5,000 feet, low enough to get good imagery, high enough to evade ground fire if it came. The facility appeared on her targeting screen, large, industrial, multiple buildings arranged around a central courtyard. And movement, lots of movement. Ops, Viper 1, I've got multiple heat signatures, vehicles, personnel. This place is active. Copy. Can you get closer? Rachel banked, came around for another pass. Her cameras captured everything, transmitted it back to Edwards in real time. Then her threat warning screamed missile lock from the ground. Ops, Viper 1, I'm spiked, going defensive. She rolled hard, dove, released chaff and flares. The Raptor's countermeasures lit up the night sky. Behind her, a surface-to-air missile streaked past, missed by meters. Viper 1 aggressing, I'm taking fire. Another lock, another missile. Rachel jinked left, the missile followed. Her computer calculated intercept time, 4 seconds. 3. She pulled up hard. Max G. The world compressed. Vision tunneled. The missile detonated below her. Shrapnel pinged off her aircraft. Warning lights illuminated. Hydraulic pressure dropping. Right engine running rough. Ops, Viper 1. I'm hit. Systems compromised. RTB immediately. Copy, Viper 1. Emergency crew standing by. Rachel fought the controls. The Raptor wanted to roll, wanted to fall. She kept it level through sheer will and muscle memory. The base was 30 miles away. Might as well be 300. Her right engine quit, just stopped. The sudden asymmetric thrust tried to spin her. She compensated, trimmed, fought, 20 miles, altitude dropping. She couldn't hold it. Physics was winning. Ops, Viper 1, I'm not going to make the field, preparing for emergency landing. Viper 1, negative. You're overpopulated area. Stay with the aircraft. Rachel scanned below. Desert, empty, not populated. Then she saw the lights. A small town. Maybe 1,000 people. If she ejected here, the aircraft would hit that town. Ops, I've got it. I'm bringing her home. Viper 1, you don't have the altitude. I said I've got it. 10 miles. The base appeared, runway lights like a string of pearls in the darkness. 5 miles. She was too low, too slow. The numbers weren't working. 2 miles. Rachel dumped everything. Fuel, ordnance, anything that had weight. The runway threshold passed beneath her. She was going to make it. Maybe. The Raptor hit hard, bounced, hit again. The landing gear screamed. Something broke. Metal tearing. Sparks. She was down, still moving, too fast. The end of the runway approaching. Fast. Brakes. Emergency systems. Everything she had. The Raptor shuddered, slowed, stopped, 50 feet from the runway's end. Rachel sat in the cockpit, heart hammering, breathing hard, alive. Emergency vehicles screamed toward her. Fire trucks, Ambulances. The cavalry arriving too late to help but right on time to witness. She popped the canopy. Smoke billowed in. Electrical. Hydraulic fluid. The smell of near disaster. Hayes was first up the ladder. "Colonel? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "The bird's not." Rachel unbuckled, stood on shaky legs. "Someone want to tell me how a Chinese facility has SAM systems on U.S. soil?" That's not U.S. soil, ma'am. You crossed into Mexico. About 15 miles over the border." Rachel froze. "What?" "The facility. It's in Mexico. You pursued beyond operational boundaries." The weight of that hit like a second missile strike. She'd violated Mexican airspace, while armed, while conducting military operations. Preston's words echoed. "Everyone makes mistakes." "Get me General Mathis," Rachel said quietly. "Now." The debrief took 4 hours. Rachel stood the entire time, refused to sit, refused to show weakness. Mathis was furious, not yelling, worse, disappointed. "You violated the airspace of an allied nation," he said, "without authorization, without clearance, based on a hunch, based on intelligence gathered from hostile contacts, sir. Intelligence you pursued against direct orders to maintain defensive posture only." Rachel's jaw tightened. "Sir, that facility is actively supporting operations against U.S. interests. The imagery confirms you made an unauthorized incursion into Mexican territory and got shot at for your trouble. Now I have the State Department screaming, the Pentagon demanding answers, and Mexico filing formal protests." "What about the Chinese operation on their soil?" "That's Mexico's problem, not ours. Not anymore." Mathis rubbed his eyes. Suddenly looked old, tired. "Colonel Cole, you're grounded. Effective immediately. Pending investigation." The words hit harder than the SAM had. "Sir, that's not a request, it's an order. You're confined to base. No flight operations. No command authority. Major Hayes assumes operational command of the 422nd. Rachel felt the ground shift beneath her. "General, with respect." "Respect would have been following orders, Colonel. Respect would have been trusting the chain of command." He leaned forward. "You're a brilliant pilot. Maybe the best I've ever seen, but you're also reckless. And reckless gets people killed." "I was trying to protect me." "I know what you were trying to do, but intent doesn't matter when you start an international incident." He stood. "You're dismissed, Colonel. Report to your quarters. Don't leave the base." Rachel saluted, turned on her heel, walked out. The hallway was empty. Everyone else had gone to sleep, gone back to normal lives where mistakes didn't echo across international borders. She made it to her quarters, closed the door, stood in the darkness. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered anyway. "Impressive flying, Colonel." The same voice from before, the same accent. "That landing was extraordinary. Most pilots would have ejected." Rachel's hand clenched around the phone. "What do you want?" "To talk, pilot to pilot. You and I, we're not so different. We're nothing alike." "No? We both serve our countries, both sacrifice, both make impossible choices in seconds that others agonize over for days." "You tried to kill me." "You entered sovereign airspace while armed. We defended ourselves, just as you would have done." A pause. "But I'm not calling to debate. I'm calling to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "About tomorrow. I told you it would be different. I meant it." Rachel's blood ran cold. "What are you planning?" "Nothing I'll discuss on an unsecured line, but I wanted you to know what happens next. It's not personal. It's just war." "This isn't war. This is terrorism. A terrorism is what the strong call the tactics of the weak. We simply call it strategy." The voice softened. "You should rest, Colonel. You've had a long day. Tomorrow will be longer." The line went dead. Rachel stood in the darkness, phone in hand, mind racing. They were coming, tomorrow. And she was grounded. She pulled up Chen's number, typed a message. "Alert status DEFCON 2. Full defensive posture. They're coming tomorrow." The response was immediate. "Colonel, you're not in command. I can't." "Then wake up Hayes. Tell him it's my assessment. Tell him I'll take full responsibility." "Rachel, you're already in enough trouble. I don't care. Do it." A long pause. Then, "Okay, but if this goes sideways, it won't. Trust me." Rachel pocketed her phone, moved to the window, stared out at the tarmac where her damaged Raptor sat surrounded by maintenance crews and investigators. Her bird, her command, her career. All potentially gone because she'd made a choice. The same choice she'd make again. The same choice she'd always make. Because protecting people wasn't about politics or diplomacy or international relations. It was about standing between threats and the innocent. Even when the innocent didn't know they needed protecting. Even when it cost everything. Rachel pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Tomorrow was coming, and she'd be ready, grounded or not, ordered or not. Because some things mattered more than careers. Some things mattered more than orders. Some things mattered more than anything except the mission itself. Outside, the Nevada stars burned cold and distant. Inside, Rachel Cole, call sign Midnight Viper, stood watch over a base that didn't know it was about to become a battlefield, and waited for dawn. Dawn came too fast and too slow at the same time. Rachel hadn't slept, hadn't even tried. She'd spent the night at her window, watching the tarmac, watching her squadron prepare for a threat she couldn't help them face. At 05:47 hours, her door opened without warning. Marcus stood in the doorway, still in civilian clothes, exhausted. He must have driven through the night. "You look like hell," he said. "Feel worse." Rachel didn't move from the window. "How'd you get on base?" "I'm your emergency contact. They called me when you crashed." He stepped inside, closed the door. "Are you hurt?" "Just my pride." "Rachel." "I screwed up, Marcus. Crossed into Mexico, got shot at, got grounded, probably ending my career." She finally turned to face him. "But they're still coming, and I can't do anything about it." Marcus moved to her, pulled her into his arms. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed into him. "I can't just stand here," she whispered against his chest. "I can't watch and do nothing." "You're not doing nothing. You warned them. They're prepared." "It's not enough. It has to be." He pulled back, looked at her. "Because if you disobey a direct order now, you don't just end your career, you end up in Leavenworth." Rachel knew he was right, hated that he was right. Her phone buzzed. Chen. Movement on satellite. Multiple vehicles leaving the Mexico facility, headed north. Rachel showed Marcus the message. "They're coming." "Then your people will handle it. They're my squadron, my responsibility. And right now your responsibility is to trust them." Marcus's voice was firm, lawyer voice, the one that won cases. "You trained them, you led them, now let them do their jobs." Rachel pulled away, paced, energy needed somewhere to go. "What if something goes wrong?" "Then something goes wrong. But it won't be because you weren't there. It'll be because that's what happens in combat." A knock at the door. Hayes. "Colonel, sir, we need you in ops." Rachel and Marcus followed him to the operations room. The main screen showed satellite feed. 10 vehicles. Moving in convoy formation. Definitely military. Chen was coordinating from the tactical display. "ETA to U.S. border is 18 minutes. We've got full cap coverage. Reaper flight is airborne and holding at Angels 25. "Weapons authorization?" Rachel asked. "Defensive posture only. Still waiting on Northcom to authorize engagement." Chen's frustration was obvious. "We can watch them cross, but we can't stop them unless they fire first." Rachel studied the convoy. Something was wrong. "They're too exposed. Too obvious. What do you mean?" "Yesterday they were subtle, careful. Now they're driving a convoy in broad daylight, where every satellite can see them." Rachel moved closer to the screen. "This is a diversion." Hayes frowned. "Diversion from what?" Rachel's mind raced, pieces falling into place. "Pull up air traffic, everything within 200 miles. Chen worked the console, the display populated with civilian aircraft, dozens of them, normal morning traffic. "Look for anomalies, anything not on a standard flight plan." "Colonel, there's hundreds of—" "Just do it." Chen filtered, isolated, found it. One aircraft, small, private jet, flying low, following terrain. Headed directly toward Edwards. "That's it," Rachel said. "That's the real threat." "It's a civilian aircraft. Could be anyone." "No, it's them." Rachel pulled up the flight profile. Too low, too fast. Wrong approach vector. "They're using the convoy to pull our attention south while they come in from the west." Hayes grabbed a phone. I'll scramble intercept. There's no time. They're 8 minutes out. Rachel checked the profile again. Her mind calculated vectors. Intercept points. Time to target. She could make it. In her damaged Raptor, with one engine, grounded, against direct orders. Marcus read her expression. Rachel? No. I'm the only one positioned for intercept. You're grounded. Your aircraft is damaged. This is suicide. This is my job. She looked at him, saw the fear there, the love, the understanding. I have to go. You'll lose everything. I'll lose more if I don't. They stared at each other. 15 years of marriage, of understanding, of trust. Marcus closed his eyes, nodded once. Go. Rachel ran. Through the corridors, out onto the tarmac. Maintenance crews were still working on her Raptor. Swarmed around it like ants. Clear the aircraft, she shouted. The crew chief looked up. Colonel, we're not done. The bird's not flight ready. I said clear it. They scattered. Rachel climbed the ladder, dropped into the cockpit. The seat was still warm from the maintenance crew's diagnostic systems. Startup sequence. Half the indicators were red. Damaged systems. Compromised flight controls. She'd flown worse. Tower frequency crackled to life. Viper 1 tower, you are not cleared for departure. Repeat, you are not... Rachel switched frequencies, dialed into Reaper Flight's tactical channel. Reaper Flight Viper 1, I have an inbound bogey bearing 270, Angels 5, fast mover, possible hostile. Chen's voice came through, sharp. Viper 1, you're grounded. Return to... No time. Intercepting now. She released brakes. The Raptor lurched forward. Uneven. The damaged landing gear protesting. Behind her, emergency vehicles screamed. Too late. Rachel pushed throttle. The left engine roared. The right one coughed, sputtered, caught. Not full power, maybe 60%. It would have to be enough. Rotation speed approached. The Raptor wanted to pull left. She compensated. Pulled back. Liftoff. The damaged gear retracted with sounds that promised future problems. Rachel ignored them. Climbed. 5,000 feet. 10,000. 15. Viper 1 ops. The bogey is 7 minutes from base perimeter. If it's hostile, it's hostile. Rachel armed weapons. Half her systems were offline. But the missiles worked. That's all that mattered. She pushed the engines. Both screamed. The right one's temperature climbed into the red. 6 minutes. The bogey appeared on her radar. Small. Fast. Definitely not civilian. Bogey, this is U.S. Air Force. Identify yourself immediately. No response. 5 minutes. Rachel closed the distance. Her HUD locked on. Targeting solution calculated. Then the bogey's bay doors opened. Something dropped. Small. Dark. Free-falling toward the desert below. Ops, Viper 1. Bogey just released something. Could be ordnance. Could be... The object sprouted wings. Adjusted course. Headed directly toward Edwards. A drone. Loaded with something. Nothing good. Viper 1, engage. Repeat, weapons free. Engage! Rachel fired. The missile streaked away. Brilliant white against blue sky. The drone jinked, evaded. Her missile passed harmlessly by. 4 minutes. She fired again. Same result. The drone was too agile, too small. Viper 1, Reaper 3. I have a shot. Coming around on your 6. Negative, Reaper 3. Stay on the convoy. This one's mine. Rachel dove. Positioned herself between the drone and the base. If she couldn't shoot it down, she'd ram it. 3 minutes. Her right engine quit, just died. Temperature had peaked. Something critical had failed. The Raptor yawed hard. Rachel fought it, compensated, kept position. 2 minutes. The drone was directly ahead, closing fast. Rachel's hand moved to the cannon, 20 millimeter, old school, unreliable at range. But this wasn't range anymore. This was point blank. She squeezed the trigger. Tracers reached out, found target. The drone shuddered. Pieces flew off, but it kept coming. 1 minute. Rachel fired again. Held the trigger downs. Ammunition counter-dropping. Hitting. Definitely hitting. The drone's wings separated. It started to tumble. 30 seconds. Not enough. It was still on trajectory. Still going to hit. Rachel made a decision. She dove. Put her aircraft between the drone and Edwards. Used her Raptor as a shield. The drone impacted her left wing. The explosion was immediate, catastrophic. Fire and metal in forces that weren't meant to exist. Warning lights everywhere. Master caution. Master warning. Every system screaming. Rachel fought the controls. The Raptor was spinning, falling, dying. Viper 1, eject! Eject! Not yet. Not over the base. If she ejected now, her aircraft would hit buildings. People. She fought, pulled, forced the nose up through sheer will. Below, the desert waited. Empty. Safe. Now. Rachel pulled the handle. The canopy blew. The seat fired. G-forces crushed her. The world became violence and noise. Then the chute deployed. Sudden deceleration. Silence. She hung in the harness, watched her Raptor spiral into the desert, watched it impact, watched it die. Her bird, her weapon, her home, gone. But Edwards was safe. The drone was debris. The base was intact. Mission complete. Rachel hit the ground hard. Training took over, rolled, absorbed impact, came up on her feet. The desert stretched in every direction, empty, hot, indifferent. In the distance, helicopters approached. Search and rescue. Already scrambled. Rachel sat down, took off her helmet, let the sun hit her face. She disobeyed orders, destroyed a multi-million-dollar aircraft, probably ended her career for real this time. And she'd do it again in a heartbeat. The helicopter landed 20 meters away. Rotor wash kicked up sand and dust. Hayes jumped out before it touched down. "Colonel, are you hurt?" Rachel stood, brushed off sand. "I'm fine. Status on the convoy?" Turned around. Once you took down the drone, they aborted. Reaper flight tracked them back to the border. Casualties? None. Thanks to you. Rachel looked at the wreckage of her Raptor. Smoke rising, metal twisted. "What's the damage estimate?" Hayes hesitated. 70 million, give or take. "That should make the paperwork interesting." "Colonel, I know, Major. I'm in deep. Court-martial probably. Dishonorable discharge, maybe." She met his eyes. "Worth it." The flight back to Edwards was quiet. Rachel sat in the helicopter, watched the base approach, wondered if this was the last time she'd see it from the air. They landed near Ops. A crowd waited. Chen, other squadron members, Preston from the State Department, and General Mathis, in person this time. Flown in just to deal with her mess. Rachel climbed out, walked toward them, still in her flight suit, still covered in sand. Mathis spoke first. "Colonel Cole, you disobeyed a direct order." "Yes, sir." "Destroyed Air Force property." "Yes, sir." "Violated your grounding." "Yes, sir." "And saved approximately 2,000 lives when that drone would have hit the operations building." Rachel blinked. "Sir?" Mathis gestured to Preston. The intelligence officer stepped forward with a tablet, showed her images, the drone's payload, enough explosives to level a city block. "They were targeting Ops," Preston said quietly. "During shift change. Maximum casualties. You stopped it." Rachel stared at the images, at what could have been. "The convoy was a diversion," Mathis continued. "The jet was the delivery system, and you were the only pilot positioned to intercept in time." He paused. "You also violated international law, destroyed expensive equipment, and gave me enough gray hair for a year." "Sir, You made the right call, Colonel. The hard call. The call no one else could make because they were following orders." Mathis's expression softened fractionally. "The president has been briefed. The diplomatic situation is being handled. Mexico is cooperating with the investigation." "And my court-martial?" "What court-martial?" Mathis extended his hand. "Good work, Colonel. Now go get checked out by medical. That's an order you'll actually follow." Rachel shook his hand, still processing. "Yes, sir." She turned, found Marcus in the crowd. He was crying, not bothering to hide it. She went to him, let him hold her, let herself be held. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're actually okay." "I'm grounded. Again. Probably forever this time. I don't have an aircraft." "I don't care. You're alive. That's enough." Chen approached. "Colonel, the squadron wants to see you. When you're ready." Rachel nodded, followed her XO to the hangar where Reaper flight waited. 8 pilots. Her people. They stood at attention when she entered, saluted. Rachel returned it. "At ease. Someone want to tell me how the rest of the operation went?" Captain Sarah Chen stepped forward. "The convoy reached the border, stopped, then turned around. We tracked them via satellite back to the facility. Mexican authorities have been notified. Joint operation is being planned." "Good. Anyone injured?" "No, ma'am. Clean operation." "Then you did well. All of you." Rachel looked at each of them. "I won't be flying with you for a while. maybe ever again. But you're ready. You don't need me. With respect, ma'am, one of the younger pilots said, we'll always need you. You taught us what it means to be a fighter pilot. I taught you tactics. You brought the rest yourselves. They stood in silence, understanding passing between them, the kind that only came from shared experience, shared danger. Dismissed, Rachel said quietly. They saluted again, filed out, left her alone in the hangar. She walked to where her Raptor should have been, empty space now, oil stains on the concrete. That's all that remained. Footsteps behind her. She turned, found the businessman from the flight, from seat 11E, looking uncomfortable, out of place. Colonel Cole, I heard what happened. I wanted to apologize for the flight, for what I said. Rachel studied him, remembered his arrogance, his assumptions. You already apologized. On the plane. I know, but I didn't mean it then, not really. I was just scared, embarrassed. He met her eyes. Now I understand. What you do, what it costs. I wanted to say thank you, and I'm sorry, really sorry. Rachel nodded. Apology accepted. For what it's worth, you were right. About everything. About assumptions. About earning things versus buying them. He smiled sadly. I'm trying to be better. That's all anyone can do. He left. Rachel was alone again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then curiosity won. Cole. Congratulations, Colonel. The voice. The accent. The pilot who tried to kill her. That was extraordinary flying, using your aircraft as a shield. I've never seen anything like it. What do you want? To acknowledge a worthy adversary, and to tell you that our business is concluded, for now. For now. War is long, Colonel. Battles are short. This battle is over. We both showed our capabilities. Both learned, both survived. A pause. Until next time. If there is a next time, I'll be ready. I know you will. That's what makes you dangerous. The voice softened. Fly safe, Midnight Viper. The sky is better with you in it. The line went dead. Rachel pocketed her phone, walked out of the hangar into the Nevada sun. Marcus was waiting by their car. They drove off base in silence, into the civilian world where people worried about traffic and bills and normal problems. What happens now? He asked. I don't know, medical evaluation, debrief, probably a lot of paperwork. They'll assign me somewhere, desk job maybe, training, something that doesn't involve flying. How do you feel about that? Rachel watched the desert scroll past. Ask me in a month? They drove to their house, small, off base, the place where she could pretend to be normal. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it, untouched by the chaos, untouched by the war that had almost erupted. She showered, washed off the sand, the sweat, the fear, stood under the water until it ran cold. When she emerged, Marcus had coffee waiting. They sat on the back porch, watched the sun set over mountains that had witnessed human drama for millennia and would witness it for millennia more. I'm proud of you, Marcus said quietly, in case I didn't say it. You did, several times. I'm saying it again. He took her hand. What you did today. Most people never have to make choices like that. Never have to decide between their career and doing what's right. It wasn't that hard a choice. That's what makes you who you are. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind earned through years of understanding. Rachel's phone buzzed. Official notification. She was being recommended for the Air Force Cross. Second highest decoration, recognition for valor. She showed Marcus. He smiled. See? They know what you did. They're just covering their asses politically. I still disobeyed orders. And saved lives. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Rachel leaned back, let exhaustion finally catch up with her. I'm tired, Marcus. Tired of fighting, tired of proving myself, tired of everything. Then rest. You've earned it. Have I? Look at me. He waited until she did. You've spent 15 years being the best, being perfect, being unstoppable. Maybe it's okay to just be Rachel for a while. Not Midnight Viper, not Lieutenant Colonel Cole. Just you. She thought about that. About who she was when she wasn't flying, wasn't fighting, wasn't proving. I don't know who that is anymore, she admitted. Then we'll figure it out together. Like everything else. The sun disappeared behind the mountains. Stars began to appear. The same stars she'd flown beneath, fought beneath, nearly died beneath. They'd still be there tomorrow, whether she flew again or not. The thought was both terrifying and liberating. 3 weeks later, Rachel stood in a ceremony hall at Edwards. Full dress uniform, medals gleaming, hair pulled back in regulation style. General Mathis pinned the Air Force Cross to her chest. Cameras flashed. People applauded. Marcus watched from the front row. Proud. Tearful. Hers. The general leaned close. Your new assignment came through. Flight instructor, Nellis, you'll be training the next generation of fighter pilots. Rachel nodded. Not what she'd hoped for. Not what she'd feared. Something in between, something new. Thank you, sir. After the ceremony, people approached. Congratulations. Handshakes. The usual performance. Olivia, the flight attendant from that first flight, was there. How she'd gotten an invitation, Rachel didn't know. Colonel Cole, I just wanted to say, watching what you did, reading about it, it changed how I see things, how I see people. She smiled, genuine this time. I'm sorry for how I treated you. We all make assumptions, Rachel said. The important thing is what we do after we realize we're wrong. Olivia nodded, left. Major Morrison appeared, the retired cargo pilot from the flight. Colonel, hell of a thing you did. Just my job. That's what the best always say. He shook her hand. If you're ever at Nellis and need someone to buy you a drink, look me up. I might take you up on that. The crowd thinned. Eventually, it was just Rachel and Marcus. Walking to their car through the Nevada afternoon. How do you feel? He asked. Rachel thought about it, really thought about it. Lighter, she said finally, like I've been carrying something heavy and just put it down. The need to prove yourself? Maybe. Or the need to be perfect, to be unbreakable. She looked at him. I broke, Marcus. That day in the cockpit. I broke and I'm still here, still standing. That's called being human. It's harder than being Midnight Viper. But more honest. They reached the car. Rachel paused, looked back at the base, at the hangars, at the sky above where Reaper Flight was running exercises. Vapor trails cutting white lines through blue. Her sky. Her world. But not her entire world. Not anymore. Let's go home, she said. And they did. 6 months later, Rachel stood in front of a class of 20 student pilots at Nellis. Young, eager, terrified. The same way she'd been once. Flying fighters isn't about being fearless, she told them. It's about being afraid and flying anyway. It's about making impossible choices in impossible circumstances. It's about being human in a machine designed to exceed human limits. A student raised her hand. Female, determined, familiar. Colonel Cole, how do you deal with people who say you don't belong? Rachel smiled. You prove them wrong. Not with words, with action, with competence, with being so good they can't ignore you. She paused. And when that doesn't work, you do it anyway. Because your worth isn't determined by their acceptance. It's determined by your commitment to the mission. The student nodded, sat back. Rachel continued the lesson. Tactics, strategies, the technical knowledge that kept pilots alive. But more than that, the wisdom that kept them human. After class, she walked to the flight line, watched the exercises, the students practicing what she'd taught, making mistakes, learning, growing. Her phone buzzed. Chen, missing you at Edwards. New squadron commander is competent, but he's not you. Rachel typed back. Give him time. He'll find his rhythm. When are you coming to visit? Soon, I promise. She pocketed her phone. A shadow passed overhead. F-22, banking hard. The distinctive silhouette she knew as well as her own face. Someone else was flying her mission now. Someone else was defending that piece of sky. And that was okay, because she was defending something else. The future. The next generation. The continuity of excellence that kept America's airspace safe. Different mission, same purpose. Rachel turned, walked back toward her office. She had lesson plans to prepare, students to mentor, a new role to master. The sky would always be there, waiting, calling. But for now, she was exactly where she needed to be, teaching others to fly, to fight, to survive, to understand that worth isn't given by others. It's claimed through action, proven through dedication, and maintained through the quiet certainty that you belong exactly where you've chosen to stand. Not because someone said so, but because you earned it every single day. 1. The loudest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in knowing your worth before they ever questioned it, and having the courage to stand firm when the whole world tells you to sit down.